Hello everybody, welcome to the Butler Gallery and a warm welcome from the gallery. My name is Alan Kerwin, I'm the Learning and Public Engagement Curator at the gallery, and delighted you can join us today for the next in our instalment of our Pride on in conversation pieces that we're having at the gallery. Today it's supporting the T in LGBT, a very important event for us and important from the point of view that the speaker that we have today, Rebecca Harold from TransLife Kilkenny, set up the group in 2020, making Kilkenny a really important point in terms of support structures and assistance in terms of the trans community. Rebecca will be joined in conversation by Una Mullally of The Times, also a columnist with The Guardian, a poet and a writer. Some of her important publications have really covered big social events in the recent Irish history. In the Name of Love, for instance, looked at the whole issue of the marriage equality bill and success that happened. There was also Repeal the Eighth, which was another significant event in 2018. So we're delighted at the gallery to have the two speakers here today, and I'll hand over to Una to ask the questions.
Thanks so much, Alan, and thank you everyone for joining us today for this conversation. I'm delighted to be here with Rebecca, also delighted to be talking to somebody in real life for a change. So thanks so much to the Butler Gallery for facilitating this in such a calm and beautiful and reflective place. I'm fascinated to hear about your story, Rebecca, and the work that you've been doing. But first of all, I was just wondering, like, where you grew up and what was your context of growing up, kind of early childhood?
Yeah, I grew up in Kilkenny city centre itself. It's thrown slow away from here. Actually, one of the first schools I remember, it was just around the corner from here as well, which was a co-ed school. And then I spent most of my childhood, a lot of it in and out of school, in and out of hospital with various illnesses. At one stage, I remember being in primary school, and it was in 6th class. They decided for some reason they wanted to see how many years or how often I was in, because it was out more than I was in, and discovered it was only one 6th year, or I think it was the only year that I never missed out of the school. Like,
Wow.
Besides that, it could be out for months.
Did that kind of a separation from your peers give you a lot of reflection time, a lot of thinking time as a kid, do you think?
I don't think so. Well, maybe a part of it, because I remember one night I found a photograph. I had this vision I could go back to when I could think at first when I felt I was different, but of course back then there was no terminology as a child. I wouldn't have had a clue. There was no one to ask, and just very confusing time. And I was age 4 because I was in from morning. There was this little girl beside me. I was looking actually for the photo so I could show it today, and I couldn't find it. But I'm with this little boat, and a red boat, this little girl sitting beside me on the step in Tramore, the caravan park. And then there was another time I remember in the school, as I said, not far from here. Been in there, it was the first day, I can't remember half, I think it was high infants or baby infants it was. And the teacher said, if any of the boys are bold here, I have a box of dresses over there, and you'd be made wear them.
Wow.
And I thought straight away, my heart started flying up, and of course, that's what am I kind of getting excited for? Looking back then, it wasn't mining. And then there, a few years ago, I talked to another trans person who had the very same experience in a school in Dublin. And I thought, wow, it's amazing that teachers were actually doing that and got away with doing it.
Yeah. Something so warped about using gender signifiers as punishment for people.
Exactly.
What kind of atmosphere as a kid? I know you're saying like things are confusing. I think a lot of LGBT people will identify with that, where there's like no frame of reference, let's say, or no vocabulary. But what kind of other obstacles and that society put in front of you were you experiencing?
Exactly. It was the whole religion in Ireland, because Ireland, we were Holy Ireland back then, and you just felt restricted. A lot of times I said, there's something wrong with me, I'm going to go to hell, I can't be thinking like this, or I'd be trying to stop myself doing stuff. Or I remember one stage taking up a carpentry course, and sure, I had no interest in carpentry. And I was there for 2 nights, and the shooter said to me, "Oh, you'll have to talk to a few of the men or whatever." And I was going, "Jesus, right, what to talk to them about?" Like. And yeah, I just felt completely lost. Or in school, in secondary school, because I said I wasn't in the other one much. But still, like if I needed to go to the toilet during the day, I would hold on to it all day until I knew I'd get home at lunchtime, maybe 12:30. I'd fly up to the toilet then and go up to the toilet again before I'd go back to school. And again, if I had to go to the toilet when I'm in school, I'd hold on to it until I got home. Like I just wouldn't use the toilet. And I used to see all the girls going into the ladies' toilet, and of course that's where I wanted to be. I used to be wondering, God, I wonder what's behind the magic doors.
It's interesting those like touch points that we have for like finding where we're at, like finding where you're meant to be or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just wondering, like, at what point was there any kind of like vocabulary or term or incident where you realised there was actually nothing quote unquote wrong with you, but that you were just existing in this context that needed to change somewhat?
Yeah, I suppose just thinking, just in Pride years ago, I was in Dublin. I didn't realise there was a Pride even on that day, and I was up there going to the body exhibition, and I came out of the body exhibition at the top of O'Connell Street,
Yeah,
there
the
at the Ambassador.
yeah.
And all of a sudden I could see this parade going by, and I said, "Oh, what's this?" And I went over then, and then I realised what it was, because you could see all the rainbow colours and the whole community just enjoy. And sorry.
It's okay.
And yeah, just started to get very upset, and I walked away thinking, God, I wish I could join them. I wish I could be out. But I was still caught in my dusty, dark closet. And just felt very restricted. There was another time I remember, one of the kind of confusing moments in kind of, I suppose, light bulb moments. I was in primary school. It was 6th class, make the confirmation. I was in the Christian Brothers, and at the time we had the presentation primary, or secondary, they were with us as well. And yeah, just been up at the altar practicing, and then turning around one day, facing down the aisle, and that was a real, wow, what's going on? Because I could see all the girls sitting on one side, all the boys on the other side, and yeah, I just found it very confusing.
Those kind of structures that are put in
Yeah,
place.
and even like the simple things, or like say like Christmas, just something came to me, and like looking at my sisters getting all the girly presents, like rings, jewellery, and I would just admire them and envious without saying that. But yeah.
So it's interesting that you say that thing about pride, because obviously, you know, that's one of the reasons why we're here talking today. But I think what sometimes a lot of people don't understand is how a display of visibility can actually be really painful.
Yeah.
I saw a gay man saying on social media the other day how all these like TikToks of like younger gay male teenagers being all like happy and everything, happy pride, he finds really like cis straight people might look at that and go, oh, that's such a great celebration, but when he's looking at it, he's just experiencing the pain of what he didn't have.
Yeah.
So it's that there's a bittersweet aspect to this time of year in a weird way. Would you agree?
I know, like, you do have a lot of people, all right, saying, well, why isn't there a straight pride, whatever. But like we're so much victimised by things. Like, say there lately, a few years ago, I was looking to go on holiday to London, and I was asking people in a trans group, is it safe for me to go to London? Because I'll be on my own. Whereas the straight people, we say, don't have that, or there are certain countries I can't go to. For example, one of the places that we go for surgery, trans people, would be Poland. And again, over there, yeah, it's all criminalised and the whole thing, and you know, a lot of hatred against the gay community, the LGBT plus community. So again, it's fear of travelling. So a lot of countries were still being hated here. There lately in Waterford, they were tearing down the trans flag. So we still have a lot of hate and discrimination, and especially on the media as well. Like, I remember for me years ago watching Coronation Street, and when one of the characters came in that was transsexual, Hayley, I can't remember her surname, but when she came into it and I started to see, at first she was getting a lot of hatred towards her and a lot of transphobic stuff, and that kind of frightened the hell out of me. I said, oh Jesus, I can't. I could kind of see what was happening. I was afraid. One of the other times I remember watching the telly was a Big Brother, and I was so happy because there was a trans person and she ended up winning it. But even then I wasn't out. But remember one night she was shaving her legs some way, and one of my sisters said, she's shaving her legs the wrong way, you should be doing it this. And straight away I just thought, oh, that's how you shave. And then I was able to learn how to do it properly myself. Which had just a lot of misrepresentation on the media, in films, or always the bush of jokes and just laughing. And I think for me, I'll always say, I was watching a trans documentary last night and someone else said the very same as I did. It all comes down, it comes to the LGBT community, is education, education, education. That's why some people say, why are you doing all these talks and stuff? I know sometimes they might drain me or they might bring up a lot of memories, but for me, if I could just help one person, it's worth it.
It's an amazing mode of being, like, that's so important. Like, you should be so proud of that stance of vulnerability because of how much it helps people, like, you mightn't even know, you know. But I'm just wondering, like, at what point did you move from your personal journey outward to setting about helping other people?
Yeah, I was a member. I've actually gone back to them recently over COVID because anxiety started to go up like everyone else, like. And yeah, so I was in Grow, and that's when I was there one to listen to listening to a few. Sometimes I could be very quiet in the groups back then. I'd hardly say a thing, but I was always listening and taking in stuff. And someone there said, if you're going to a counsellor, you need to be straight and tell them everything. So I done that, and they ended up, because I asked them to tell my doctor that I was struggling with gender identity. And then I was in Grow one morning, and they pointed me towards, it's a long name, LGBT plus Health, South Tipperary.
Right.
And when I was there, that's really saved me. It gave me the help, gave me the confidence, and just so helpful. And then while I was there, the last year or so, then I became a facilitator. Started off facilitating a trans group, now facilitating other groups in the community there as well. Got to do with the LGBT South Health Tipperary. And
they're a bit of a mouthful, those names,
yeah.
aren't they?
Yeah.
But what kind of resources were, because a lot of the discourse around LGBTQ plus community almost always refers to like large urban areas or like bigger cities. But what kind of resources and community were you experiencing in this part of the country?
Like that's why I felt when I came out and I was looking for help everywhere in Kilkenny, or even next door neighbours, Carlow, Waterford, I couldn't find anything. I was getting words there was one in Waterford, and then I was ringing and not getting anything back, or I get an email, oh, we're talking, there's something that's going to happen, that never happened. And then it was, I said, from being with the Clonmel group, gave me the confidence and the ingredients that I needed in helping others and seeing how sharing my story with others and helping others helped me. And I said, I need to do something, Kilkenny. I said, there's no way there's anybody else coming out in Kilkenny and me left alone. Because I did reach out to a few in Kilkenny, and I found like one day someone had messaged me when I set up TransLife Kilkenny, and I said, I have a 15-year-old here, would you be able to, she go to your group? And I said, gotcha, she's more than welcome. I said, I have it for adults only, but I said, if you leave it with me, I believe I can help you. So within say half an hour I got back to this person, and I said there's actually 2 groups in Kilkenny for young trans people. And that's when I started to really go, wow, there really isn't anything for adults in Kilkenny. And that's when I said, well, it's not going to happen anymore. And that's why then I wanted to set up TransLife Kilkenny. And unfortunately, due to COVID, we only got the third meeting, but we're back up and running again, please God, by August, and I have a venue confirmed.
Amazing.
Yeah, so I've got that support behind me, and Kilkenny Leadership Partnership as well have been fantastic with their support. Like at first I was trying to do it all on my own, and then I was having it in cafes. Jesus, if you're not out, you're not going to go to a cafe. Hi, I'm friends.
Yeah.
So then I went to the KLP and they provided me the room, helped me with the flyers and do all the work for me as well, and really are behind me.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting point you raise about how LGBT issues are also framed around youth and around younger people, like children, teenage people, who of course need massive supports, no doubt. But that thing that you're raising about like the missing gaps in the broader support.
Yeah.
What were the general experiences of people you were connecting in with when you set about establishing TransLife Kilkenny?
Well, first,
the people you were connecting with, that you were kind of helping, like what were there any, obviously everybody's story is individual and diverse, but were there similar themes that you could relate to?
Well, yeah, we could all, especially in Kilkenny, because outside the county over the last couple of months I've had messages from people around the county, just the feeling of isolation, that there is nothing for them locally, for no support. And just feeling very alone and nowhere to turn, no one to ask what to do, where to go. And then when I set up the group, remember, I was surprised the age group that was coming to the meetings, most of the people were 60 plus.
Wow.
Yeah, and they were coming like from, we had Limerick, Sligo, Dublin. So that was another thing I said, wow, it really shows like that there's something there. And then even this morning on YouTube, just to start to watch a documentary, and it was all older people, again 60 plus, and they're finding the same. There's not much help for that older age group. And I think it's fantastic now that I'm finally able to do this and just help the older people.
Yeah.
Because I said, because when you are older, you have that more experience in life. And as I'd always say, like, I remember one day I talked to my counsellor, because I struggled for a long time with acceptance. And he had said to me, you have to remember, he said, I'm 40, I'm thinking 46, I think sometimes I have to ask my sister every year, what age am I this year?
The exact same thing happened to me on my birthday this year. I gave myself 2 extra years.
And sorry, I'm lost losing thought.
You were talking about the older people who you were connecting with, was it?
Oh yeah, so like I was talking then to my counsellor about the acceptance and stuff. And he said to me, you have to remember, he said, you have 40 years of social conditioning from the Irish society. Growing up, it was wrong, it's not right. And you have to undo that. So I think for the older person, you know, you have that more years of experience with that, and also being exposed to more transphobic stuff on the media, on different things. And also, like, if you're gone through marriage, divorce, like say if I have a load of kids, I have a number of friends who are trans, they have a number of kids, and then they're afraid to come out to the kids, they're afraid of losing the kids. Now for me, kids are fantastic, and I've talked to other trans people who are afraid to come out to their kids, and then they were so happy they did. Like my niece and nephew were just unreal.
Can you tell me a bit about that? What was their support like, so other people know what that support looks like and feels like?
Yeah, well, my niece, she was only 4 when I came out, and she was actually the first one to pull them up, if to correct them, like if they misgendered me, or if they got the pronouns wrong. She was the first one in there. And one day lately, I was in Boots Chemist, and she said, "Oh, you were a boy, you were a man." But I just laughed at her, because she was only a child.
Yeah, it's an innocence kind of, yeah.
She doesn't know like that. Well, it wasn't hurt me, I was just kind of laughing at her innocence. Like one day my sister said, she was saying it one day to one of her friends, oh, she said my aunt used to be bi, she could be a girl tomorrow. She might be bi again the next week. Where they're so innocent and they don't, you know, children are just so innocent. They haven't been conditioned yet. Like you'll often see young kids there, black and white, going around holding hands, having a laugh together. It's only when they get older that this hatred and this other stuff, then I think that a lot of it comes down to the parents and the raising of the child.
Yeah, and schooling as well.
Yeah, exactly. School and education is an awful lot.
Yeah.
Like I'm in schools now cleaning and I'm flabbergasted at half the stuff they're teaching kids now. I said, Jesus, where were they when I was growing up? Like they're teaching them about meditation and all these things. I said, geez, I wish someone taught me meditation years ago when I was younger. That there was none of that.
I think it shows though as well, like when you're saying that, like probably one of the youngest people in your family is such a support, is how that, like you're talking about, that conditioning with regards to attitudes is so pronounced, because nobody starts their life off with any discriminatory points of view.
Yeah.
Like they're all dropped in and then you just spend your life unpicking them. It's just like a life's work or something.
Yeah, I remember one morning I was listening to Stu FM and I forget what they were on about. Well, someone was on about trans being a choice, and I said, Jesus, I wish it was. Like, it's not a choice for any of us to be who we are. And then, like, one of the hard things for me was I had lost my parents, so they never got to see the daughter they knew they had. So a way of keeping them part of my journey, at one stage I got me a new birth cert. So I cycled up to the graveyard, sat down at the side of the grave, and opened up the birth cert and said, so it was an emotional moment for ages. I struggled with how they have taken me. But I know my mother would have been great. Like everyone says, when you know you were her favourite. My father would have struggled at the start, but he would have got around it. Then the hard part for me since I came out, when I came out, was finding work. I had left my previous job because my mother had only died, and I took up a job too early, and I collapsed one day in the shop with stress and the whole lot.
But what, well, let's talk about work in a second, but one of the things I'm interested in terms of the support systems that you're setting up with people and being such a role model for people is in a situation where, whether it's a group situation or one-to-one, what kind of support works and what kind of support or intervention that might look like a support doesn't, Well,
for me, I think peer-to-peer support is the best.
Right.
Like I've seen that when I was in Grow. Before Grow, I went to a counsellor, and well, at that stage I didn't come out about gender issues. But I think peer-to-peer support is fantastic because we're talking to other people on an equal level. We all have the same experiences, same fears, and everyone just relating their stories and giving each other helps and tips on how to overcome things. Like I remember asking one of my friends at a meeting, I said, I find it awkward. Someone that I know might come up to me from school. I said, Jesus, what do I do? Or sometimes I'll just panic and I'll duck into a shop until that person is gone, then I'll come back out. And they said, no, they said, the way you handle it is you just go up and say, hi, I'm Rebecca. You need to say anything else. That's it. Now sometimes it still might happen to me, but mostly now it doesn't. Like I'll just introduce myself as Rebecca and that's it, and I didn't say anything else.
Yeah, because it's who you are.
Yeah, like somebody as well, like doesn't go up and say, hi, I'm Jenny, I'm straight.
Yeah.
No, like going to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
and outside of that peer-to-peer support with trans people themselves or non-binary people, have you experienced broader support within the LGBT community?
yeah, definitely. Like for me, one of the saving graces along with the Clonmel group was the Dublin lesbian line. I would have been lost without them. It was near the start I was starting to struggle a lot, and they had a wellness program which I'd recommend anyone from the queer community to go to. It was absolutely fantastic. It saved me, like it was one Monday every week for about 2 or 3 months. And it was just fantastic to be in the room with the other ladies, and it was just fantastic and really saved me, like. And then like you have Tinny as well, which it was Dublin lesbian line for me, like, and the Clonmel group. And then I had learned then one night we had a function in the Clonmel group where we had members from Carlow LGBT Network, and then I ended up then joining Carlow LGBT Network the following week, and I've been very active with them as well.
Brilliant.
And then I went to, actually when I was there then we had the Carlow Pride Festival set up by John Paul. And one day then I went to John Paul with the idea of setting up TransLife Kilkenny. And I said to him, look, I said, I'm trying to do this and that. I said, I'm not getting anywhere. I said, I need help. I said, I'm starting to see it now, I'm no good on my own. And that's when John Paul then recommended me to go to Kilkenny Leadership Partnership. And that's when things then really started to happen for me with the group, like.
Great. And so you've had the 3 gatherings so far, 3 meetings with...
Oh yeah, TransLife,
yeah. And how do you see the group and your work evolving? Like, what do you think will be really helpful and what would you like to do?
Well, definitely I'm looking at bringing in different, like, makeup. Like, remember at the first meeting I was asking people, give everyone a piece of paper. I said, write down what everyone would like to see here, what would you like to see happen? And the most popular thing was someone to come in and teach about makeup. So that's something I could arrange as well, like somebody to come in and talk, maybe someone else coming in that's expert in talking about sexual health, do all those workshops, just to have different workshops, and eventually then get another facilitator to come in and help me out, like, and someone to co-facilitate with me would be fantastic, like. And just to get the word out there that we're here, we're alive, and we're doing things down here in Kilkenny as well, and that there is, most importantly, there is help and support out there now in the county. In Kilkenny, like, it is called TransLife Kilkenny, but it's for everyone. I don't care where anyone is from, whether you're from Mars or Venus, everyone is welcome.
Excellent. And how can people get in touch with the organisation?
We have the page on Facebook, TransLife Kilkenny, or also if you contact Kilkenny Leadership Partnership Kilkenny, they'll get onto me as well. And on the Facebook page as well, you'll have the phone numbers and emails.
You talked about isolation earlier, and it's obviously can be a really, really pronounced thing because of how society can be hostile to people with different gender identities and gender expressions. But I think over the last year and a half, a lot of people who may not have experienced isolation before in their life have kind of got a taste of it. But I was wondering, is there anything about your own self that you've learned that's kind of new to you over the past year and a half? Well,
I've noticed, I was only saying to my sister during the week, that since COVID happened, since we say the gyms, before I'd go into a sauna, my lips would be sealed, I wouldn't utter a word. I was terrified in case I'd be clocked or something would give me away, so I'd be silent. And I will go in and chat to every Tom, Dick and Harry that comes in. And my sister said to me, you know, some people go in there for a peace and quiet.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that's opened up in you?
I don't know. I think one of the reasons was one of my friends, and she's like trans too, and she's, I see her, she's transitioned a good few years more than me, and just getting the encouragement for her, because with her she goes up to everyone and hello and talking to everyone, where I'm more silent. Kind of said again, there's the fear of being clocked, and like sometimes there I'm meeting people in the gym, all lady doing aqua aerobics, became good friends with her, and I said, Jesus, do I tell her in trans or doing that? Because I don't know how people are going to react.
Do you feel the need to come out to people in that way?
Yeah, I think sometimes there's a need in me. I feel like maybe I'm hiding something. Like even when I come out to, well, I never actually came out to my bosses. The way I came out was one day, one of them came in to me, Jennifer, and she said, Rebecca, by any chance, that's you doing the Battle of Gallery thing? And I just said, it is me. I was proud to be here and proud to help Anne and KLP. What they're doing is fantastic, like. And I said I was afraid to tell her at the start when I joined, because you don't know how our employers are going to take it. Some will freak out. Some might take you on because they're just ticking a box for diversity in the workplace.
Yeah, it's like those things to consider that like other people just do not have to consider at all.
Yeah, exactly. You're sitting there and you're saying, I remember I've had a debate with a number of people, even on my CV, whether I put down all my LGBT activism stuff or groups that I'm in. Some in the professionals doing career guidance tell me, no, don't put that down. You won't get a job if you have that down. Some people in the community will tell me, do put it down. Someone else lately from the community one of the support organisations said to me, Rebecca, they said, I'm from Dublin, I can put it down. They said, you're from Kilkenny, don't put that down in your CV.
How did that make you feel? Like,
I was surprised, but at the same time I said, look, I'm trans, I'm proud to be trans, I'm not going to change it, it's going down.
right on. Fair play. I was wondering if you have any personal motto.
No, well I do, I know I live by the thing, feel the fear and do it anyway. Like I remember one time going into it was in the gym again, there was a steam room, there was a few men in there, I said, oh Jesus, what am I going to do? I said, okay, just feel the fear, just do it anyway. And yeah, sometimes with things, like even, like I said, coming out, a few times, well, the number of times, and it does get a bit easier as you go along, but sometimes I think if everyone in the LGBT feels it, you feel like you're constantly coming out. Like I thought, Jesus, is there ever going to be a day I don't have to come out? Like one day I was with a doctor in a hospital, and this young doctor, I forget what it was, and he said, oh, I'll go for, came to, I forget what it was, it came to something about changing or something. I said, well, I said, I know it's okay. I said, sure, you know, I'm trans. And he goes, sorry, you're trans. I said, what? I said, transgender. Oh, God, I said, I didn't even know. I was like, Christ, I said to myself, I didn't have to out myself.
Yeah, it's hard to...
Or even going into a hospital for a day surgery. And again, I wasn't telling them anything. Only for, I was trouble at the time, I had only started the HRT at the time. And I was getting pains in my legs or something. Jeez, I better say something in case this interferes with the thing now. But hospitals, for me, my experience have been positive. Like, I remember going into one and they're asking me for, I think it was the X-ray, are you pregnant or anything? Jeez, I was saying to myself, I won't mind. Expect me on Sky News if I am.
Speaking of healthcare, like there's been a lot, obviously, there's, you know, Ireland's shortcomings in general healthcare, all healthcare are, you know, well documented in terms of waiting lists for any kind of procedure, and obviously COVID has really, really heavily impacted that. But how do you find the trans healthcare landscape in Ireland, and where are the shortcomings and what can we do better?
Yeah, I think it's just the system we're using in Ireland. I think the word is archaic, is outdated. We need informed consent like most other countries have. Ireland or England are stuck back in the old way with this diagnostic that we have to be diagnosed. I remember the first time I had gone to a psychiatrist and he made me feel at ease straight away. He said to me, first of all, I need to tell you something. I thought, geez, what's this going to be? And I said, I don't agree with any of this. He said, I think it's a load of bull. He said, you are who you are. But he said, unfortunately, for anything to happen for you, I'll have to ask you certain questions. So I said, if it's easier for you, I said, I can just tell you my story. And he said, yeah, that's fine. And he had 2 or 3 questions that he asked me. And then he put up his hand after 50 minutes and he said, that's okay, that's enough. I've heard everything I need to know. And then unfortunately, then it didn't work out with the hospital I had got that letter for. So I ended up going to the main one, Loughlinstown, the Gender Services. And through there, unfortunately, the first meeting was with a psychologist and were put through a grueling 3-hour process. Like, it took me 2 weeks to recover after that. And the next meeting I went up to, I was chatting to another trans woman and had asked her, had she gone in for the first meeting yet? She said she had. I said, how did you feel? Oh gosh, she said, I was really worn out. It really stressed me. I was worn out for 2 weeks. I said, I was the very same. I said, there was just a lot of personal questions, stuff not to do with your gender, like you broke your arm, how did you feel when you broke your arm? Or with me, at one stage I turned around and said, I'm sorry I didn't bring my CV. Because they kept asking me, what year did you go into that school? What year did you leave that school? You know, you're trying to remember, trying to remember over 40 years ago.
Yeah.
All these dates. But yet there's so many questions, like informed consent is what we need, like we know who we are.
For people who don't understand the difference between diagnostic and informed consent, what is it?
Informed consent is more or less what Drogheda uses, where you're going in and they'll read out a list of questions, you agree, you know, like at one stage in Drogheda, I think when you start the hormones, he had turned around and said to me, you know now once you start this, there's no it can't be reversed. And I said, yeah, that's grand. So it's just, again, just ticking the box that I know what I'm doing.
And giving you the autonomy and the agency.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And what has been the impact, because I keep hearing it from different people, of Brexit on healthcare, that, for example, if people are going to the UK for specific healthcare?
Yeah, like even, yeah, no, there's a lot of people are using gender GP because they have the informed consent, and that's the way they're getting their prescriptions and the whole lot from there. And then the other thing on the trans healthcare, a lot of people don't realise, when we go over, we say from Germany and for trans or Poland, and say for trans women, it looks like we're going to be shipped off to Germany. Nobody knows yet. We're stuck with Brexit. We don't know what country we're being shipped to for surgery. But when we come back to Ireland after having surgery, there is no aftercare in Ireland. We're stranded. We're left alone, abandoned. So God forbid anything serious happens to anyone here, because they're not educated. Nobody knows what to do.
How can that be fixed?
I think the government themselves need to act. They need to do something. Enough is enough. That it shouldn't be this way. Like there a few months back, I know of 2 trans people had went to Poland and they came back on a plane and ended up getting COVID. Like we should be able to have surgeries in Ireland. There is an Irish doctor who is an American, I think her surname is Gallagher, and she was talking at one stage, I know, with Simon Harris trying to get something sorted. But since the new government or governments, whatever we have up there now, all this talk is just seems to have stopped and stalled, nothing is happening. The trans community in regard to healthcare, we're just being left behind and disregarded.
I think people think of stuff like the Gender Recognition Act and they see a piece of legislation, they go, oh, everything's taken care of.
Yeah, oh God, no. Like I know for some trans people, they might want to medically transition and that's perfect. But yeah, some of us like to do, we do need extra healthcare services. As far as even like the likes of voice training, the doctor was sending me somewhere, a GP, lovely GP, now Jesus, all the time I've been worried for her. But I knew where she was sending me was wrong. So I went off and done my own research and I thought at this stage, okay, I need to take control now. Because a lot of time GPs are not educated. I know one person that was talking to in Waterford about 2 years ago, they're 65 I think or 70. They came out to their doctor as being a trans and the doctor turned around and said, oh, just man up.
Wow.
And this is unfortunately the reaction that's still happening in Ireland. A lot of GPs are not educated in the subject of
well, trans healthcare, yeah. How have you noticed Irish society, maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm kind of making an assumption here, but do you think that awareness and understanding and empathy has changed over the past 5-10 years?
Well, I know for me it was the marriage equality that was the moment for me. I thought, Christ, at long last, Ireland is letting go of the church. The church is losing this grip on our throat. That maybe I can finally step out of the closet when I jumped out. And I said, like, yes, for me, yeah, I felt the Irish society slowly were starting to change. But unfortunately, there's still a lot of hatred. Now, I'm blessed in Kilkenny, me personally, on my journey, everyone is different. I can't speak for the whole trans community of Ireland and the world, but for me in Kilkenny, I've been okay. I've had one smart remark from someone. I was heading into Pennies and they said, oh, I like your boobs. This was at the early stage of transitioning. And I was tempted to say, well, you're getting them from $6.99 at Pennies. Well, yeah, stuff like that. But no, I think people are slowly, but there still is an awful lot of hatred. Like I've heard of people, I know people have had glass bottles thrown at them. People still afraid to go into a bathroom, afraid of the hatred if they're going to get killed. I have a friend, anytime she goes into a bathroom, she won't open her mouth. She said to me one day, then lately I was in the bathroom and I said, Jesus, she's right, she won't talk at all, like. Because it's just that fear of if you are clocked or you don't know what's going to happen, if you're going to be beaten up or... Yeah. I said just meet more safe places. well, we shouldn't need safe places. Like, I know labels as well are important to people. They help me an awful lot to identify that I am trans, which I would love to see where we're all equal, whether you're from the moon or what planet you're from. Because we all bleed the same, we all bleed red.
Yeah. We may have some questions coming in.
Yeah.
I think Alan has one or two.
Yes, we have some questions. I think first, before the questions, the general consensus is how brave you are, and a real sense of, even today, to do this, people are extremely impressed and just wanted to say that, really. I suppose then, in terms of the questions, which kind of people would like you to comment on, is that have you found that there's a level of transphobia within the wider LGBTQ community sometimes, and how can that be addressed? That would be the first question, really. Have you come across this transphobia within, amongst the gay peers, in a way?
Well, I have asked, I'm not picking out a certain group, well, I've had the experience of that. I know particularly a lot of the lesbians, unfortunately, have hatred against trans people. Like, I did ask, was at a group one day with LGBT people, and there was a lesbian girl. They have a great group down in Waterford, and I just asked her, I said, would you mind me asking? I said, how would I be accepted? And she said, no, that's great. I said, I know an awful lot. She said, there is the older LGBT group, she said, that they will find trans people offensive or not accepting of us. But yeah, even in the LGBT community in general, still there is a lot of hatred towards trans people, that we are like a minority within a minority. Things are improving and getting better. As I said, it all comes down to education.
And that's the same for the LGBT community.
Yeah, exactly.
They need educating as well. They probably think they need it. They probably think they know.
Yeah.
But they don't.
Yeah, like, I find the discourse around, like, the transphobic discourse that is coming from some lesbians and indeed some, like, cis straight feminists so incredibly frustrating and regressive, because it's not like this is a new conversation, and I definitely find myself that a lot of the prejudiced attitudes are rooted in personal traumas that, like, lesbian women have not overcome themselves, or trying to, like, be supremacist somehow, or claiming territory, and actually find it really, like, almost colonialist of the body. Like, these are our genders, these are our borders, you're not allowed in here, or blah blah blah. Like, just shut up. Do you know what I mean? It's the exact the transphobic rhetoric I find that trans women are experiencing is the exact same lesbophobic rhetoric from, like, 30 or 40 years ago, that you're somehow, like, threatening or, like, shouldn't be in particular spaces. Like, absolutely not. It's abhorrent and it's ignorant, in my opinion, as a lesbian. So I get to say that. Wise up.
Yeah.
And then on another related issue is, in terms of public spaces, I suppose there's a question, what do public spaces such as gyms and shops and areas like that need to do to be more welcoming to trans people? What simple things could they do?
One of the most simplest things they could do is ring Kinney in Dublin. I don't know the number offhand, but if we check them on their website, they'll actually come and they provide free training. And also the other Clonmel group that I mentioned, the LGBT South Health Tipperary, they also, Gerard Dare, he does, along with another Gerard Dare, provide training on LGBT awareness. Well, they specialise more in the LGBT plus awareness, but Tierney specialise in the trans awareness, where they will educate you and they will come down and train your staff.
And in terms of TransLife Kilkenny, you have a website, or how can people contact you directly? I think a lot of people after today will want to maybe contact you and speak to you directly, Rebecca. So how can they contact you?
They could contact me on my email if they'd like. I can call that out to you now, if that's okay.
Or yes, if that's something you have public accessible and it's fine.
Yeah. It's spelled BECKY, Becky, Harold, HAROLD, and 777, all lowercase, @gmail.com. or you can also contact me through the Facebook page TransLife Kilkenny.
And I think that it's really just before I close off, maybe back to Una and yourself to finalise what you've been talking about.
Yeah, I just want to thank you so much for your vulnerability and your bravery and your honesty. It's a privilege to talk to you, and I wish we could hug. But next time, and I just want to thank you so much for sharing your story.
Very much. Thank you, and I don't see myself as a lot of trans people. I had this discussion a few times with us. We don't see ourselves as being brave. We're just being ourselves.
100%.
Thank you. And thank you, Alan and Butler Gallery and KLP and the two guys here behind the camera. Thanks very much.
Nice one, lads. Thank you. Thanks, Alan.
So just thank you from the Butler Gallery to Una and Rebecca for today. It's as we say when we talked about putting out this conversation, it's a really important conversation to have and to be had in terms of the hatred and the violence that's being inflicted on the trans community. We hear reports of it every day. So if there are people there, you have Rebecca's contact details and TransLife Kilkenny, do make contact and link up with her in that way if you need any assistance. So thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you from some more Pride events, hopefully through the next week or so. Bye bye.